Knowing who you're selling your digital product to makes everything else in your business so much easier. So in this video, I'm going to share how I use Notion and Notion AI to take a deep dive into who my ideal client is. This is the second video in my playlist about using Notion as a digital product seller. There's a free download that goes along with this playlist, and I'll leave a link to that in the description. It's called 10 Unknown Ways to Use Notion and AI to Grow Your Digital Product Business. There are several benefits to having a clear and specific target audience. The first one is that your ideal client can self-select. So when you're speaking in your marketing or on your sales copy, sales emails, any of that, the more specific you are in who your ideal client is, the more targeted you can be in your communication to them, and they're really going to resonate with what you're saying and self-select and realize that you're talking to them. So the second reason that being really targeted in your ideal client is useful for you is you can make your digital product more useful. So for example, I've covered this in another video, which I'll leave up here. But say you create Canva templates for hairstylists. You can be even more targeted and specific if you do something like target your templates or create your templates specifically for wedding hairstylists. Then your content is going to be much more relevant to those ideal customers, and it's going to be more useful to them, and so they are more likely to buy from you. Which brings me to the third point, and the third reason that being really clear on your target client is important, and that is that you can actually charge more for your products when you have a more specific target client, because people see you as a specialist. They feel like you're speaking to them because you're being so specific about who you're talking to, and it resonates with them. And also your product is more useful because you have designed it specifically for them. So it kind of all works together in allowing you to charge more for that digital product. All that being said, that sounds great in theory, but it can be really hard to figure out who your ideal client is when you're doing this on your own. You can get stuck in your own head. You can start to think, or I certainly did, I used to think that nobody could afford to pay me. There was the products that I was making, maybe that was just targeted at beginners and maybe they had no money. So you can get stuck in your head thinking that the people that you want to sell to don't have any money. And this is where AI comes in, and Notion AI can help you start out that process in planning out your product. So let's jump into Notion and see how I use it to clarify my ideal customer. Okay, so we're in a demo version of my digital product operating system in Notion. And I'm going to go into the factory section, which is where where you can plan out any offers, to show you how this setup works. I'm going to scroll down to an idea I've already input, and I'm going to make it full page. So this is an idea or a digital product that I've literally just taken from Etsy. So this is a title from Etsy. Someone's selling pet social media templates specifically for pet businesses, and it's specifically Instagram content. So it's basically Instagram Canva templates for pet-based businesses. So I've taken the title and I've just input it here, and then I've filled in what problem it solves, who it's for, and what's included by taking sections from the description that answer those questions. So this is just to use something that's not attached to me in any way, and I kind of did this to test the system, but I can also use it to show you how you can do this for yourself. So I have just talking you through this layout. So this is an entry in my product database. So if I go back here, this is the product database in another view. This is where we can see it as like a typical table. And so this is the pet one down here at the end, and you can see it's a table with the information filled in here of who it's for, what problem it solves, and what's included. So if I click back into it, make it full page again, the top half of this page, of this database entry, because this page is that one database entry, is all the input information about my product, what I know so far. And then at the bottom of this page is a template that I have created that automatically is set to default. So this template automatically comes up whenever I create a new entry in the database or a new product in the database. This template is going to come up. And it's essentially a framework. It's called the Flow Framework, split into Foundations, Launch Prep, Originate Marketing Ideas, and Watch and Refine. So I've set this out with toggles so I can open and close things and the page doesn't get too unruly when I'm working on it, but there's a lot of things included in here. But for this video, we're just going to look at this very first toggle that says target client, and I'll show you how this works. So because we've got the information input already, what we can do is we can open this target client clarity tongue twister toggle to work on who our target client is. Now, I've already obviously generated this, but I'm going to show you how this works by generating again. So what I do is I click on the button and up pops a prompt, which I've put in when I created this template. So it says, based on who my ideal client is, and specifically the aspects that give them the ability to pay for my offer, can you help me to break that list down to some more specific and targeted groups or examples? So if I click generate, it's going to generate that for me right now. So we're looking at more targeted groups, and also we've mentioned that we want these targeted groups to be people who can afford to pay us. So we've got some suggestions here, and it's essentially the same suggestions I had down here already. So what you would then do is take the time to read this output and see if anything stands out to you that you think you could help these people well. So I would say go with something where you've got a little bit of experience or knowledge. So with pets, unless you're a vet, you probably don't know a huge amount about how to market as a vet because it's quite technical. So you might want to go with something else, like maybe upscale grooming salons. So you would pick one that's going to work for your background, your experience, your knowledge. We'll just pretend it's this one. And I'm actually going to change this because I had input something that was a bit more broad. So we input our chosen target client in this section in my template which I've created that says my chosen target client is, to let AI know what we've chosen. And then again, we want to deep dive into who this target client is now that we've picked someone. So again, I've got a pre-created prompt which appears when I click this button. And this prompt is based on who my chosen ideal client is, and specifically the aspects that give them the ability to pay for my offer. Can you help me to understand who this person is and how I can speak directly to them? What are their specific pains and desires, and how did they get to where they are? I really need to understand how to communicate with them. And you click generate, and it's going to come up with a deep dive into who they are. Okay, so we've got who they are, their professional background, their financial position, their current situation, specific pain points, specific desires, and how they got here. Ooh, I've lost my place. How they got here. So commitment to quality, adaptation to client needs, investment in growth, how to communicate with them, tone and messaging. So it's got some examples, some key messages that you can use when speaking to high-end pet groomers. Content and examples, and ways to address their specific pains, and examples of calls to action. So there's quite a lot of information included here. So that's how I use AI to get more clarity about my target client. But I know that you're probably wondering why you would do this using Notion AI as opposed to ChatGPT or other tools. I know there's a lot of content out there suggesting you use ChatGPT to do this, and you can. This is a process that you can follow through all the way in Notion, and the reason I like using Notion for this is I'll show you this. So AI has helped me generate some questions for a beta round of this offer. So it's generated these questions for me, and I can then create a form right within Notion. And I can copy across my generated information into my Notion form. So it's really about combining the AI with other workflows and functionalities that Notion has, rather than like Notion AI coming up with a better output than ChatGPT or Claude. Notion AI does actually use OpenAI language model, which is the same as ChatGPT. And I think for the higher end Notion AI plans, you can actually choose to use Claude as well now. So you're still accessing the same AI. It just means you can organize things and find things much easier when you've got it within a database linked to that product, and you can find it again when you need it. So that's why I like to do it in Notion. But that was a slight aside. But this target client is the start of our workflow where we're working through our positioning, and we're going to get into the rest of this in future videos, so you'll be able to see how all that works. So make sure you subscribe if you want to see all that. So this is just one of the ways that I use Notion to manage my own digital product business. If you want to see 9 other ways that I also use Notion to manage my digital product business, you can grab that freebie I mentioned earlier. The link is in the description. And in the next video in this playlist, I'm going to share with you how I then move on to outline my digital product based on what my ideal customer needs. Now we've got that clear. That one's coming up in a few days. So if you're watching this brand new, you can subscribe to be notified when it's published. And if you're watching it in the future, it should be available to click now and showing up on one side of me.